Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wolf Pit with another episode of What Are We Eating? When I think of Italian food, one thing I think of is Stromboli. All the meat, cheeses, and vegetables rolled up into a pizza dough. It's really just a pizza, but rolled up and more delicious. But just like pizzas, everyone doesn't have time to make a homemade Stromboli. So that's when you head down the freezer section of your local grocery store and you pick up a frozen pizza or a frozen Stromboli. And I know that I, the person, am gonna get some hate for this from you, the people, but frankly, frozen pizzas suck. Unless you like cardboard. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. So let's try the 12-ounce boxes of Leonetti's pepperoni and cheese, steak and cheese, deluxe, and buffalo chicken Strombolis that cost $4.99 and see if they're any better than frozen pizzas. Say these Strombolis are handcrafted, which I'm assuming means handmade. Why don't they just say handmade? If that's the case, I wish they would have a video showing all of these Strombolis being handmade, or excuse me, handcrafted. I just picture Billy Madison and the rest of the kids in Miss Lippy's class during art making Stromboli. So let's go over the 2-pack of Leonetti's pepperoni and cheese Stromboli, which consists of pepperoni, mozzarella, and provolone cheese wrapped in bread dough. It doesn't mention any sauce, but I hope there's some in the Stromboli, or at least in the box. Here's the list of ingredients, and so far we're off to a good start. No TVP! Each Stromboli has 540 calories, 28 grams of total fat, 13 grams of saturated fat, no trans fat, 80 milligrams of cholesterol, 1,030 milligrams of sodium, 52 grams of carbohydrates, 2 grams of fiber, 4 grams of sugars, and 23 grams of protein. Next, we have the Leonetti's buffalo chicken Stromboli, which consists of chicken, American cheese, buffalo sauce, wrapped in a bread dough. They're pretty darn generic with describing their food. They don't try to dress it up or make it sound delicious at all. Kinda reminds me of this guy. You take it or you leave it. Here's a list of ingredients, and that's a mighty long list of ingredients. And at least they say it's grill marked chicken instead of grilled chicken. Each buffalo chicken Stromboli has 400 calories, 12 grams of total fat, 5 grams of saturated fat, no trans fat, 40 milligrams of cholesterol, 1,100 milligrams of sodium, 55 grams of carbohydrates, 2 grams of fiber, 5 grams of sugars, and 18 grams of protein. Now for the Leonetti's Deluxe Stromboli, which consists of pepperoni, cheese, sausage, red and green peppers, and onions wrapped in a bread dough. Here's a list of ingredients, and I'll be a son of a biscuit eater. There's no TVP in this either. That's 3 for 3 so far with no TVP. Leonetti's is onto something. Each deluxe Stromboli has 480 calories, 22 grams of total fat, 10 grams of saturated fat, no trans fat, 65 milligrams of cholesterol, 850 milligrams of sodium, 52 grams of carbohydrates, 2 grams of fiber, 4 grams of sugars, and 19 grams of protein. And last but not least, we have the Leonetti's Steak and Cheese Stromboli, which is beef and American cheese wrapped in a bread dough. Here's the list of ingredients, and it looks like they might have done screwed the pooch on this one. What in the darn tarnation is hydrolyzed corn protein? Is that the same thing as textured vegetable protein? Nope, it's the same thing as isolated soy protein. It's a flavor enhancer, kind of like MSG, except MSG is a natural flavor enhancer. Regardless, when you start putting all that crap into food, it's not food anymore. It's a science project. Oh, and of course, when they mention binder product, that means that the steak is a foreign meat slurry concoction. Why can't steak be steak? Each steak and cheese Stromboli has 440 calories, 16 grams of total fat, 7 grams of saturated fat, no trans fat, 40 milligrams of cholesterol, 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 56 grams of carbohydrates, 2 grams of fiber, 5 grams of sugars, and 18 grams of protein. So here's our Strombolis right out of the freezer and right out of the box and right into the pan. From the left to the right, we have our pepperoni and cheese, deluxe, steak and cheese, and the buffalo chicken. Now they go into a preheated 400-degree oven for 13 to 16 minutes. And here's our Leonetti Strombolis after baking in a 400-degree oven for 15 minutes. Visually, the pepperoni Stromboli looks overcooked and very greasy. Literally, the grease is pouring out of it. And the buffalo chicken Stromboli looks dry and crumbly. But on the other hand, the deluxe and the steak and cheese Stromboli look fantastic. So let's try the pepperoni Stromboli first. And as you can see, when we cut through the crust, it was crispy on the top, but nice and airy and fluffy as we cut through. The inside looked nice and cheesy and wasn't as greasy as I thought it would be from what appeared to be grease pouring out onto the pan when we put it out of the oven. So into the old pie hole and down the gullet it went. Now the best part of the Stromboli was the top of the dough, which was crispy, airy, and fluffy, with great seasoning. The worst part of the Stromboli was the bottom of the dough that was soaked in pepperoni grease and overcooked. Now I know a lot of people love greasy pepperoni pizza. I personally don't. It would have been nice if they included some marinara sauce to dip the Stromboli in. But they didn't. It was still a decent Stromboli with a good amount of cheese and pepperoni, and with me not being a big fan of pepperoni to begin with, I'm giving Leonetti's pepperoni and cheese Stromboli a 5 out of 10. Next we're trying the Leonetti's Deluxe Stromboli. And again, as you can see when we cut into it, the dough is nice and crisp on the top and still light and fluffy and airy. And the inside is packed full of goodness like pepperoni, sausage, onions and peppers, and cheese. So into the old pie hole and down the gullet it went. And that right there was a winner Stromboli dinner. That was good. The inside was very moist, cheesy, very well seasoned, while the dough was still nice and fluffy and had texture without being soggy or greasy. Even though visually the filling didn't look very appetizing, it was delicious. And I'm giving Leonetti's Deluxe Stromboli a 7 out of 10. Next we have Leonetti's Steak and Cheese Stromboli. And this is the first Stromboli so far that the top of the dough didn't look flaky and crispy, but the inside of the Stromboli looked extra cheesy and extra meaty. So into the old pie hole and down the gullet it went. And the previous two Strombolis tasted like pizza crust, and this steak and cheese Stromboli tasted like bread, like a sub roll. I don't know if that was intentional, or it could be my mind playing tricks on me, but it works. Even with the hydrolyzed corn protein, the steak and cheese were fantastic. The only thing that could have made it better was some peppers and onions, and maybe even some mushrooms. The Leonetti's Steak and Cheese Stromboli so far is my favorite, which is why I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. Now for our final Leonetti Stromboli, the Buffalo Chicken Stromboli, which right off the bat looks like undercooked dough. And even when we cut into it, it didn't have that crispy, flaky top dough like the previous Strombolis had. And that doesn't even look good. So reluctantly, into my old pie hole and down the gullet it went. And it tasted just like what it looked like. Not very good. It tasted like undercooked dough with a little bit of American cheese and Frank's Red Hot on it. Oh, and some rubbery chicken. So I'm sorry to say, but Leonetti's Buffalo Chicken Strombolis would be a hard pass for me, and I don't want to rate them, but if I have to, I'll give them a 2 out of 10. Thank you all very much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.